Charity Singleton Craig, freelance author and editor, and the author of the recent book, On Being a Writer, 12 Habits for a Writing Life That Lasts. Today, I am continuing my series of 5 authors on being a writer to talk with writers I know about their writing lives, and particularly about how our book, On Being a Writer, has impacted them in their writing life. So today, I have with me Jennifer Dukes-Lee. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, so fun to be here, Charity.
Thank you. Jennifer is the author of Love Idol, a book that came out in the last year, and she is a longtime writer and former journalist. Is there anything else you want to say about yourself, Jennifer?
No, I just come to you from the northwest corner of Iowa. I live on a farm and enjoying the writing life up here. It's much different from my days in the newsroom in the city.
I'm sure. Well, as I've done with other guests, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. I've given Jennifer these questions ahead of time, so I don't put her on the spot. The first question is pretty simple. As I mentioned, our On Being a Writer the subtitle is 12 Simple Habits for a Writing Life That Lasts. And what I'd like to ask you, Jennifer, is which one of those 12 habits are you connecting with most at this stage in your writing life?
Yeah, I just finished the book last night and just really resonated with all 12 and some more right now that are really resonating more right now. And so when I really got honest with myself, it was surprising to me the one that stood out the most, because I've been writing professionally since I was 16 years old. So you'd think that, I'm almost 43, that I would have this writing life kind of figured out. But the one that I resonated with most was write. Right. And the reason is I feel like I figured out how to create white space in my life, how to create margin. I have a place to write. I have time to write. My girls are older and go to school now, so I've carved out this place in my day for writing. But when it comes down to it, to actually sit at the keys, I have 2 big problems that affect my writing. One is perfectionism, and the other is distraction. And both of those are so detrimental to the writing life. And you've really addressed perfectionism, I think, in that chapter called Write. But for me, if I can't get it right the first time, it's very difficult for me to advance and into the next paragraph and just let it go. And move into the paragraphs and move into the story, and I start to listen to an inner critic and imagine critics outside of myself, and it just kills my creativity. And so what happens then is I get easily distracted beyond just the "oh look, squirrel" thing. It's a sense of back in the 80s and 90s when I first started writing, I didn't have a bunch of windows open where I could easily go over to Facebook when I got stuck in something. But now, if I get stuck, I move off of my writing platform and I go check out what's going on Twitter or Facebook. I stop working hard to find the words and to work through the inner critics and to work through the writer's block. I have stopped doing that. I've moved somewhere else, and so I feel like for me, distraction and perfectionism are the 2 things that are really standing in the way of my writing at times. And what I have done to try to overcome that is I set false deadlines. I have always worked better on a really tight deadline. I think that's from years of going out to a fire or a bank robbery and having to turn that story around rather quickly. So my brain has trained to work under a deadline, and you can't worry too much about perfectionism when you've got an editor expecting your story at 5 o'clock, right? So I create an inner editor who sets up for me false deadlines. Now sometimes those deadlines are by Friday I will have a chapter done, or by today I will have 1,000 words written, or in 10 minutes I'm going to crank out 500 words. And those kind of deadlines are what move me past perfectionism and distraction.
Wow, that is a great tip. Having that inner editor to quiet the inner critic is really important. Well, you mentioned distraction, which we really didn't talk about a ton in the book, and I could probably write a whole book on distraction. I completely agree with many of the things you said about distraction. But so maybe apart from that, was there anything else? We gave 12 habits for a writing life that lasts, but I'm sure that there are more than that. What's one that you would add, maybe a habit or just an element of the writing life that's important to you?
one that I would add, and I do think that you address this, maybe not quite so directly, is the matter of voice. To own your voice and to hone your voice.
Yeah.
I see so many writers out there who are having trouble stepping into their own voice, maybe trying to mimic someone else or this, that somebody else is saying it better, so I'm just not going to say it at all because I can't say it like this writer over here. And the trouble is, of course, that no one's going to say it quite like Charity is. That's what I loved about on being a writer, too, because I'm hearing from two different voices with speaking to the same topic, but with different voices. So I think owning your voice and honing your voice. And by honing, maybe you will try on some other voices from time to time, because we're going to naturally be taking on all of the voices that we listen to in our world, from growing up to the books that we read as children to the books that we consume now. So I think that is that's been a struggle for me with voice, because my voice was such a reporter voice for so long, and it still really is, and I had to own that and know that there's certain benefits to having a reporter's voice. I'm very direct, but sometimes I've been so literal. I have been scared of the metaphor. I want to tell you right away, the butler did it, instead of waiting until later, because the most important news goes in the lead.
Right.
So I've had to, think about voice in a different way. My voice, I was trained to, everything was subject, verb, object, simple sentence, move on. And so to let something other than I be the subject, to let inanimate objects come alive and let them be the moving force in a story. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I find that I'm just continually honing it, but not dismissing what my voice has been and what my background is, that I bring something special to the page just because of the voice that I've been given, but just to continue to work at it.
That's great. That's great. You're right. I don't think we do talk a lot about that. That is a really important piece of the writing life. Well, for our last two questions, they're kind of connected, I suppose, but the first one is, what would you tell a writer, maybe a struggling writer or a new writer, who is trying to figure out the next step? What's one practical tip that you would give that writer? And then, just so you know, I'm going to ask you what's next for you.
This is what I would say. And no, she's not paying me to say that. This is so good. I think if you're a beginning writer, it really helped. The identity chapter is so good. I struggled with that so much when I transitioned from news writing to blogging and writing books and this sort of writing, and to be able to call yourself a writer. So it really depends on where a person is in their journey, what I would tell that person. But a lot of the advice that you have in here regarding identity, I think, is very important for a new or a struggling writer to really, own that identity and move forward as a writer. Take risks, keep walking through thresholds, and keep working at it. Always have a willingness to learn, that we're not ever done learning, that we continue to improve at our craft.
That's really good advice. I think that's good advice for writers at all levels, actually, that continuing to hone and improve and all of that. That's great. So the big question now is, what's next for you?
Well, I'm still doing a lot of work with Love Idol, as you've talked about in the book with promotion. There's a lot of speaking that's been happening with Love Idol, so I've been taking that message out on the road, and that's been a lot of fun. But right now I have another book proposal, and I'm looking forward to hearing if we can move forward on that very soon. So I will let you know when I know.
Excellent. Wow, that sounds exciting. Great. Well, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's been so much fun.
And thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.